What is going on today, gamers? We are back with another draft analysis. Actually, I don't know if it's another draft analysis because I usually only do an analysis on my team, but we have an 8-man league and we're starting a new league, and this one's going to be, I said league twice, but this is going to be a very cool league, third time. And I just wanted to do some content for it because I'm really excited about this. It's one of those like heavy tiered leagues, so I'll go a little bit more over the rules. And I'll show you some of the tiers, just like a little bit of a taste of what the tiers are like, but just basic drafting rules. So you have 15 tiers, and you have very expensive mons at the very top, and then like very cheap mons at the very bottom. So in a lot of draft leagues, if you only have 5 tiers, there might be some really good value picks in low tiers, and then like really undervalued really weak mons in high tiers, like weak draft mons in high tiers. So the object of this having 15 tiers is to make sure everything is correctly priced. And then we also put a pretty tight budget on it for 72 points, and I'll show you what the tier system is like in a second. But 72 points is a very low amount of draft points, and that promotes really creative building, because then you have to really budget your points and you have to choose a lot of low tiers. With this, megas are inside the tiers, so they're not tiered separately. So you can either choose 0 or 1 megas. I don't believe I didn't even draft a mega, so like megas are optional. With your 72 points, you can buy anywhere from 8 to 10 mons. So if you want to use 72 points on 8 Pokemon, you can. If you want to get a bunch of low tiers and go all the way to 10, you're allowed to do that, but you can't just buy the lowest tier and then just get like 15 mons. So anywhere from 8 to 10. And then at the end you have 2 Z captains. So those 2 Pokemon are you will choose those at the end of the draft. Those are the 2 Pokemon on your team that are the only ones that are allowed to use Z moves. So nothing else on your team can use Z moves, and that's just to try to, because me and the other guys, we don't like drafting Z crystals because that really limits you too much. You can only use one type of Z move, but then if you do free Z, it's a little bit too unpredictable. So this was our way of saying, okay, well, I know 2 Pokemon on his team are Z captains, so I know his Excadrill is going to be holding a Z crystal, and then from there you can probably figure out like, okay, well, if Excadrill is holding a Z crystal, he probably wants to hold like a Steelium Z against my team. And just to give you a quick overview of what the tiers look like, so you can't see the farthest tier to the left. I'm sorry about that, because of just the way it's cropped so that you can see the document. But highest tier is 22 points, second highest tier is 20 points. So you can see tier 2, but you can't see the mons in it. Highest tier is like Celesteela, Mew, Tapu Koko, there's only 5 mons. And then 20 tier, there was only 3 mons drafted out of it, Jirachi, Kartana, and Mega Medicham. A lot of megas are in that tier. Deontay, Latios, Tyranitar. Oh, actually, Victini was drafted out of it. Heatran. And then tier 3, you got like your Clefables. And then keep dropping down. You can kind of just look over this a little bit. And so this top row with the 18, 16, that's how many points it is. And this is the tier number. So as the tiers get to a higher number, it gets to be lower tiered mons. And at first it starts dropping by 2 points until you get to the lowest tier, which is like Arbok or Riolu, some like really, really trash mons. But like sometimes you have to pick those. So the PU mons, some of the PU mons are in like tier 4 or tier 12, and they cost 4 points. So if you're not careful with your points, you might have to draft tier 1. And tier 1 isn't just like PU mons, it's not just ZU mons either. It's like the worst of the worst for draft wise. So I spent a lot of time making this tier list, and I think it's generally pretty accurate. We'll probably change things with the next season of it, but I just wanted to give you a quick 5-minute overview of what this tier list is, so you can better understand the drafting mechanics and how teams drafted. And then I just wanted to go in depth with every team. I sorted them into 3 tiers. Within the tiers, they're not necessarily ordered because it's kind of hard to tell right now, but as far as high tier, a big section for mid tier, and then a section for low tier teams. So whether you want to call my team high tier or not, I just put myself here because it's my draft analysis. So obviously I think I did a good job drafting, or else why would I draft that way? So Coach Lambo, that's me. We got like a bulky offense team. We have lots of hazard removal, lots of hazard setters, and Quillfish was my... So if you look at the order here, this is the order that we actually picked the Pokemon in. So Quillfish was my last pick, and I wanted him so that I would have options for spikes, toxic spikes, and also just didn't have a water type yet. So I figured Quillfish would be good for that. I do think my team has a weakness that I don't have a super bulky water type. Like I only have Quillfish, but Quillfish has Intimidate and definitely has its uses, and I think we can play around other things. The real, I don't want to say niche, but like the real mainstay of my team is my Dream Core with Hydreigon, Jirachi, and Comfey. Jirachi was a very expensive pick, Hydreigon was a very expensive pick. I kind of thought about like doing a budget version and doing like Guzzlord and Bronzong because I like that, I like the type synergies with them, but I was like, you know what, Hydreigon is just a beast in draft format. Great breaker, great hazard removal. He's got Roost, Jirachi has Wish, and I was like, I'll just go expensive with those and then go like lower mid tiers for the rest of my Mons. So as you can see, expensive Mons and then like lower mid tiers for the rest of it. And I think I did a pretty good job of budgeting my points, but I think the biggest weakness to my team is electric fire coverage can get really far against me, and strong offensive momentum. I don't have really great options to stop super strong offensive momentum. I don't have much fake outs. I don't have any fake out. I don't have any fake out support. If you can get going, then you can kind of pile drive through my team. I think my best way to stop that is Comfey, but I tried to find weaknesses for every team just so that other coaches can build off what I say is weak so that they can kind of see their problems with their teams and how they can patch that up. So that's what I think are the weaknesses of my team. Other top team is another really top tier coach, Laser. He is a strong coach, pretty much always makes it to playoffs, frequently makes it to finals. So really good player, and he drafted a like a bulky sand offense team. So as you can see, he drafted a little bit more like, so he also went with the high tiers and a like upper mid tier Sylveon, and then filled out all 10 spots with like mostly lower tiered Mons. So he's got, sorry if you guys can hear that, I have no idea what that sound is. Hazard setters with Excadrill, Gigalith, and Garbodor, and issue with his hazard setters is that they're all kind of weak to the same thing. Like, well, not all weak to the same thing, but like just if you have a strong water type, you can kind of blow through his hazard setters and kind of deny hazards from him. Fighting's another one, but if you have like fighting psychic coverage, you can kind of prevent hazards. He's got really good removal though, Torn-T, Excadrill, like even just those two, and then Mega Blastoise and Rotom Fan, just incredible. He's got really good sand mode with Gigalith and Excadrill. That can be a real strain on team building because you definitely have to have some sort of bulky grass type or something along those lines, or like a really bulky water type to stop. Sand mode also has access to a Trick Room mode with a low tier Trevenant, which I think was a really good pick. Only worth 2 points, but with like Guzzlord and Gigalith and anything else. I mean, maybe throw maybe like min speed Blastoise. It depends on what team you're playing, but Trick Room mode can definitely be really dangerous. He has a little bit of a weakness to Bolt Beam coverage. I talked about the weakness in his hazard setters, and then just bulky waters I think generally do really well against this team because I don't think he has anything great to break through bulky waters other than like maybe Rotom Fan, but you can play around that pretty well. So that's what I said are the high tiered teams. Now we move on to mid tier. This is where the bulk of the teams are. We have 4 teams in here. First off, and like I said, within these tiers, I didn't really rank them. I just kind of put them in 3 different categories. We got the Smelly Sunflowers. We got Humper. typically is a little more of a meme coacher, but I told him if he doesn't try, I'm going to be very upset with him. So I think he's going to give it his best this league, and I made him to actually like try in drafting. He's going to try in building. So I predict Humper will do kind of middle of the road, like maybe just below middle of the road. But I do think he drafted pretty well. So he drafted like a really balanced team. He has a lot of removal, and his hazard setters there's only 2 of them, but like I think they have decent synergy together. So Pylo has thick fat for fire types, and Skarm has spikes and stealth rock and defog. And Pylo, basically between Skarm and Pylo, if you can't get your hazards up, then your opponent's just a beast or something's wrong. He's got a really good fire, water, grass core with Finny or Vaporeon, so he's got 2 water types there. Delmise and Rapidash, and then Delmise and Finny are both good at keeping the hazards off, and then the benefit of Vaporeon is that it also has Wish Passing. And then Delmise and Rapidash actually both, Delmise is always a beast in draft because it's always like kind of a mid-lower tier pick, and it's got like Rapid Spin and just crazy attack, trapping ability, and synthesis. And Rapidash is actually, for 2 points, I think it's a good pick because it's got good offensive presence with fire, electric, especially when using Z moves, and then it can also kind of run like a bulkier set if you run like Will-O-Wisp and Morning Sun. So the thing is, I don't feel like his team has too much creative ability in the sets. Like I think Mega Medicham, Tapu Fini, you can do some creative stuff with Finny, I guess, but like Piloswine runs similar sets. You know what Skarmory's doing, you know what Vaporeon's doing, you usually know what Delmise is doing, so he doesn't have too much creativity ability in building with this team necessarily, but I do think it's deceptively synergistic, and I do think he has options to actually win games. And I think the lack of I spelled straightforward as 2 words one time and 1 word the other time. That's weird. I think it's actually going to be good for him because he doesn't always build super far in advance. So I think building can definitely be a weakness for him, and I think having a team like this that's pretty straightforward actually makes building a lot easier for him, and I think that will be honestly, I think that will play in his favor for him. So in a way it's a weakness, but I think it's also a strength for him. And I think you can also beat through this team with electric fighting coverage. Obviously Delmise can put a stop to that, but like electric fighting can beat through a lot of the team, so he's got to be careful about that. I tried to put like attack coverage weakness as well as other weaknesses as well. So I think basically everybody has coverage move weaknesses, and it's mostly for like breaking through your walls, but he's going to have to play Delmise around electric fighting. And if you add ice to that, then electric fighting ice, but that always has incredible coverage. This is not Humper. I don't know why I said Humper is. This is Mighty Monferno's. We got Mike, the coach. He built a very balanced team around Fire, Water, Grass Core, Serena, Mega Charizard, X, and Toxapex, which is just super, super bulky core, really strong backbone, and I feel like that's the kind of team that Mike tends to build from what I've seen. He always tends to get those like really synergistic mons. I would say similar to me. I think he builds pretty similarly to me. He gets like a really strong core, and then kind of gets supporting mons around that core, and a little bit different in the fact that I try to use the rest of my mons to really try to centralize the team around that one core. And I think he kind of went off and was like, okay, well, now that I have this core, I can focus on other things like getting strong breakers. But in the sense that he really is a core builder, I think that's similar to me. So doesn't have a ton of options with hazard removal or setters, but I do think he has pretty good options for what he does have. So Donphan, another one that basically always gets up the rocks. Just super bulky and can also always rapid spin him away. And Serena's also a good rapid spinner. His other two removal options, his only defoggers, are Megazard X and Swellow, and nobody's defogging with them. I guess if you really need to, Swellow would be a good defogger due to the speed and kind of forces things out, but nobody's defoggering with Zard. And his only setters are Toxapex for Toxic Spikes and Donphan for Rocks. So if you're playing against him, you can really just taunt Donphan, taunt Toxapex, and he doesn't have a super strong hazard game. And then if you get your hazards up, his main way of getting them off are spinners, so he's really susceptible to spin blockers. And I think he can improve his team and make it better by trading Hoopa and Audino for Aromatisse plus either Weezing, Rhydon, or Steelix. And the reason I say that is because that will give him more options for hazards, and I think it will also give him a little bit better of defensive synergy, because I don't love Hoopa with his team. I think he really needs a fairy type to have that. He needs a fairy type to have the Dream Core so that he can have Charizard X, Aromatisse, and Escavalier, and if he gets Steelix as his other one, then he has Aromatisse, Steelix, and Mega Charizard X, which I think is a really good Dream Core, honestly, especially on a budget. And that also gives him, it keeps his ability to Wish Pass while getting rid of Audino. So I just think that gives him better options. And then weaknesses, like I said, spin blockers. Some of his team's kind of passive. Toxapex, Donphan isn't always putting out like the most damage. Audino right now I think is like, it works well on some teams, especially like more stalled kind of teams, but I don't think the passiveness is going to work well with him. And then ground fire coverage is pretty good against his main core. Next up we have Houston Heracross, First Nut, another good coach, but the team type is WTFR points offense. Because if you look at his draft order, I think he just did not think about like the late game with points at all. Like he picked Clefable, Mega Aerodactyl, and Hippowdon. I was like, okay, that's like a decent 3, but now he's gonna have to be careful with his points. And then I look at him round 4 and he drafts Kartana, and I'm like, okay, now you've got like 8 points or something like that, right? Yeah, like you have 8 points left, and you need to choose like 4 more Mons. Yeah, he had 8 points and had to choose 4 more Mons. I was like, I just don't think he thought about the points. So I think the biggest problem with him is his point management, and as you see, a weakness on this is overload of lower tiers due to the point management, and just like I feel like some dead weight. You know, Semisear, it's nice to have a fire type, and he might have a good matchup against some teams, but Semisear just sucks. Like he's not the kind of Pokemon that you want on the team. Octillery is cool if you want to run Trick Room, so he does have like a Trick Room offense mode with Dusknoir and Octillery. But I do think he can make some changes and try to figure some of this out. So I think if he trades Hippo for a Dragon type, he can get a nice Dream Core with Kartana, new Dragon type, and then Clefable, and that will be super, super scary. But as is right now, Clef, Arrow, and Kartana are already like a very dangerous combination. And then even if he keeps Hippowdon, giving the Spadef boost to Mega Aerodactyl makes it even scarier. The rest of his team, I just feel like useful in some matchups. I feel like Zebstrika is a good lower tier to have. Like I feel like some of these are like decent lower tiers to have in the context of like some other Pokemon that give them momentum, but like nothing really passes the momentum off to the other things on his team. Like I guess Zebstrika can pass momentum with Volt Switch. Can't remember, does Aerodactyl have U-turn? I think it probably has U-turn. But like Simisear, Octillery, like you gotta get Octillery under Trick Room because it has mediocre bulk, And I mean, it can hit pretty hard and it's got good coverage, but like you really need to get it under Trick Room to do any damage. So I definitely think some trades would help this out. Maybe kind of trading a lump of those. Maybe using all 3 free agent picks at the same time to trade like a lump of the lower tiers and like some of his higher tiers to kind of even out the points maybe and get to like a team of 8 of like decent mons. So maybe get rid of Dusknor, Duosian, Semiseer, Octillery, and Hippowdon, and then pick up like 3 other things, and I think that would leave him at like 8 mons. Or just do a trade that would leave him at 8 and try to keep the team synergy, because you get another 3 trades at playoffs, and First Nut's a good coach. I think he definitely has the ability to make playoffs, but I do think he should try to make switches to make it some trades to make it easier to get to playoffs so that the lower tiers do not drag him down. Steelfire also beats his team. His core doesn't do well against Steelfire. Next, we have Coach Moon of the Jersey Dusk Noir. Team type, I would say this is a momentum kind of offense team. He's got a lot of U-turners. He's got, let me see how many U-turners. Darmanitan's got U-turn, Noivern's got U-turn, Mespert's got U-turn. Galvantula has Volt Switch. But then he has Sneasel, which is a really good Pursuit Trapper. And then he's got something like Lucario that you can U-turn into to do big damage. You know, he's just got like, he went for a full team of mid tiers that just have like nice, like decent offensive options. But I think in doing that, he really lacked building a defensive backbone to his team. So the only really like defensive backbone kind of mons are like Florges Seismitoad, which he actually drafted in that other league that we're playing in the IDA. So I guess he just really likes those mons, but I don't feel like there isn't a good synergistic, I don't feel like he has any good switches, is what I'm trying to say. Like if you come at him with something that's super effective against Florges and Seismitoad, and then just like one other stab move, like nothing on his team wants to switch into a stab move, even if it's resisted. Like Lucario's not a very bulky mon. Even if you're hitting him with like a strong steel type move, if you're a steel type mon, he's not going to appreciate that. And I guess what he's just going for is that he can out offense the opponent, and if he can get that momentum going, then they won't really have a chance to attack because you have to switch too much. But I think that's going to be a difficult playstyle to play in this. And I really do think he should make some trades to get more of a defensive backbone on his team. Maybe get like a bulkier steel type and a bulky dragon to try to do a dream core with Florges, steel type, and dragon, because Lucario is definitely not part of a dream core. It's not a defensive mon. So hazard removal, he does have Florges and Noivern. Decent, you know, that is Fairy Dragon. Noivern's not a very defensive mon either though, so. Hazard setters does have decent options with Mesprit, Galvantula, and Seismitoad. Seismitoad's a very good rocker, Mesprit's a very good rocker, and Webs is, I think, what he's really going to have to play off. I think he's going to have to try to get Webs up, and like, I feel like Florges is trying to do other things other than defog. I feel like Noivern's usually not trying to defog, so I think he's really going to have to play against his opponent, putting up webs so that his opponent wants to defog, and his opponent can keep his own side clear. So I think he'll struggle against rapid spinners, and I think he has a problem with the hazard game. So, but I think he can make it work. You know, I definitely don't think it's not a league-winning team right now, but I think he can make some changes and get better synergy to move it there. And now we have the 2 low-tier teams. First one is the Bristol Snovers. Squid is the coach. And I was telling him during the draft, like, he made a rain offense team, but like it's like overwhelmingly water type. Like he has really just terrible switch-ins to like everything. Like dark, he doesn't have a single dark resist on his team. He's got some grass resist, but if you have like grass and electric, like grass electric coverage, not a single resist on the team, and like most of the team is weak to it. He's just got terrible defensive synergy. And I know he wants like a rain offensive team, but if you're doing a rain offense team, why are you getting a Loma Mola? You know, like that's not a rain offense team. And I just think super whack team synergy, and I think trades need to happen. I think he's going to play a couple games with it and be like, okay, you're right, I need to make some trades. So his hazard removal right now is just Rotom Wash and Tornadus, and his setters are Bronzong and Mega Swampert. I do love Bronzong on this team. I think Bronzong, like without Bronzong, like this whole team is just absolute, like gonna fall apart. Yeah, like he's gonna be leaning so much on Bronzong, but Bronzong doesn't have like reliable recovery. He's gonna have to Wish Pass from a Alomomola. But you're gonna have so many super effective moves against water types that Alomomola is not going to be able to assist Bronzong. And I don't know, I just feel like his whole team is going to get really easily swept. If you have a bad matchup against Rain, you're probably going to have a terrible time because everything on his team is meant to abuse Rain, but he didn't diversify how they abuse Rain enough. Like he needed to get like maybe some dry skinners of a different type, or maybe Ferrothorn, like something that's actually a defensive backbone to the team. Like Tornadus can be good defensively, but he doesn't have he doesn't get Roost, so he doesn't have reliable recovery either, and he doesn't have Regenerator, so he's more of an offensive. I can't vibe with it. Sorry Squid. I think you should make some changes. And I also like how his name's Squid and he drafted a rain team. Kind of funny. Anyway, last team on here, Cranky Croconaw, Coach Toto, who's actually going by Cranky Croconaw now. He was Terrible Totodiles, and he upgraded from Terrible Totodiles to the Cranky Croconaw, and then one day he will be the Ferocious for Alligators. But I wanted to give him a team type, and I'm thinking like he really went with the counter team approach, I think. We just tried to get lots of decent mons at countering anything possible that you can think of, except for the fact that he forgot to counter hazards. He's got 0 hazard removal, and that is like the one thing that puts him so low. Like that puts him in low tier. If you just put up, literally if you put up anything, put up Stealth Rocks and put up Sticky Web, or you put up Spikes, he has no way of handling it right now. And granted, he is, like, I pointed this out to him, and he is going to be making some trades, but then that kind of prevents him from making trades later in the season as well. So there's definitely some some problems to be made there, or some problems to be fixed there. But if you want to beat him, you throw up hazards, and then you just throw on the U-turn offense, because he has to throw something into it. And even if you're throwing in like a really bulky core like Victini, Shaman, Milotic, if you're coming in taking 50% as soon as you switch in, and then somebody U-turns into something, like your whole core is just going to absolutely fall apart. You have Umbreon. You know, he's got like some decently defensive mons and like a nice fat team, but just taking so much from hazards that they can't do their job right. And he does have Stealth Rock and Lievany. I don't know how you're supposed to say it. Lievany, Leafney. So really, with his current team, how he's going to have to do it is put up Sticky Web and force the opponent to defog. But even then, man, as an opponent, I would just put up the hazards and not defog at all. So I think he's trying to trade for Rotom-Mow and Hitmonchan, and I think that would alleviate a lot of his problems and kind of like kick him up to mid-tier, because I think he has really creative building options, and I think that is his strength. I think he is a very creative builder, and I think this team gives him good options for that. So I think that is the last team, gang. So let me know what you think. Do you agree with my opinion? Sorry this video is so long, but I wanted to give like an in-depth analysis of these teams. So let me know what you think in the comments. If you disagree with me, let me know why you disagree. But most importantly, I hope you all have a spanking wonderful day, and also check out the music. I'm gonna post a link in the description because it's a freaking dope song. Route 216 is the bombest of bomb, but I will catch you guys later. Peace.